3 great tips for plotting out or writing stories would be: do always make sure that you finish your work. Don't beat yourself up excessively for what you see as its failings, but whatever else you do, never ever be completely satisfied with anything that you write.
What's happening?
As a prospective writer, I would urge you to not only read good books, read terrible books as well, because they can be more inspiring than the good books. If you're inspired by a good book, there is always the danger of plagiarism, of doing something that is too much like that good book, whereas a genuinely helpful reaction to a piece of work that you're reading is, Jesus Christ, I could write this. That is immensely liberating, to find somebody who is published who is doing much, much worse than you. And by analysing why they are doing so badly, this will immensely help your own style. You will find out all of the mistakes not to make. Why did this story offend me so much? Yeah, analyse that. Find out why you didn't like it. Find out all of the examples of clumsiness or bad thinking that spoiled the story for you. That will probably be a lot more helpful to your career as a writer.
Who knows what it has become? A muck-encrusted, shambling mockery of life. A twisted caricature.
One way to create an imaginary world is by considering its texture, because this is one of the first things that the reader will be looking for. They will want this to feel like a real world. And what I mean by texture is all of the trappings that we find around us in society that we barely notice. Advertisements, scraps of news broadcasts, television programs, scraps of songs on the radio. All of these things that make up the texture of our lives. If you want to create an imaginary place, try faking some of that. When I say a device, I am generally talking about the necessary tricks that we come up with as means to tell a story. For example, in my own work from Watchmen, a very simple early device that I worked out was that scene changes could be accomplished by an overlap of dialogue, by an overlap of imagery, even by an overlap of a colour between one scene and the next. This is a device. It carries the reader through the changes in the narrative at a furious pace, and it's aesthetically pleasing. Of course, you will learn things in doing any work, and you should retain that learning, that you can do this effect, that you can do such and such a device. But it is important to just keep moving fast in evolving these things. The importance of making your characters three-dimensional can't really be overstated. As an example from comics, a one-dimensional character is where it's either a hero or a villain. It's a goodie or a baddie. You don't need to know anything about them other than that. They don't have to have motivations. They're just a good guy or a bad guy. All of the bad guy's schemes, they can be explained by the fact that he's a bad guy. This is one-dimensional characterization. Sometime around the probably early 60s, Stan Lee came up with a kind of formula whereby he would give a personality problem to his good guys and his bad guys. So now they were a good guy, but they had trouble finding a girlfriend. Or they were a good guy, but they had a bad leg, which apparently a bad leg is considered a character trait in that kind of comic book. So this is a two-dimensional character. There's really nothing to them. They don't resemble human beings. They just have one slight cosmetic flaw to make them seem more realistic. If you want a three-dimensional character, then you have to take that much, much further. You have to have a character where you know them from the inside out, where you know why they do things. You know all of the elements in their life that have made them the character that they are, so that they have complete agency, so that they have their own agendas. That is how three-dimensional characters behave.